Confirmation of quorum.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting, and we have confirmation of quorum. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
No petitions or delegations. First Nations adoption.
Moving on to C, just acknowledging that we are located in the traditional territory of the Lakota people.
Move adoption of the public agenda?
Second.
Moved and seconded for the public agenda. Thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
No petitions or
No,
delegations.
no petitions
This is the
or,
next one, adoption of minutes.
what's that?
Next item is adoption of the minutes from the last meeting, November 22nd.
The adoption of the minutes?
Yeah, get a motion from someone to.
Okay, so we have the minutes of inaugural meeting of the regional board held on November 27th, 2024 be adopted.
So
I'll move adoption.
Second.
Thank you, Director Coburn, and seconded by Mawini. Thank you. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Any business arising?
Business arising from the minutes?
Kenny?
Nothing. Thank you. Notice of motions,
None. Chair's reports, none, unless you want to give a big speech.
just quick, I guess, just to
Yeah,
introduce myself and
floor is yours. Yeah.
thank you, everyone. Just like to take a minute and my name is Matthew Jack, and I've been an elected official for my nation for 21 years, and very honored to be here and sitting where I am today, and work with all you fine people, and just to acknowledge that, and that I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to receive the chair's report.
Second.
Thank you.
Favor?
Moved and seconded. All in favor? All in favor? Thank you. Motion carried.
Committee chairs. So we have a motion to receive the set of minutes.
So moving on to committee chair reports, Natural Resources Committee.
The receipt of the report?
Second.
Thank you, Director Wallace. Director Coburn, thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to two, Electoral Area D Advisory Planning Commission.
For receipt. For receipt.
For receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you, Director Rice. Director Mooney, moved and seconded. All in favor? All in favor, thank you.
So the staff report on an agreement. Sayward.
Moving on to staff reports, municipal service agreement, Village of Sayward.
Move receipt.
Second?
Moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing from staff unless the Sayward Director may have a question. Or the Zabalis. Yeah. If there's no questions, we can just move on to the motion.
Director Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question because the agreement lists several community services which are utilized by the electoral areas, like planning and parks and bylaw enforcement. I was just curious how it works when a request comes through from a municipality. Is each request for a unique item of work, or could a request be for an annual or multi-year provision of services? And does staff have the opportunity to examine their current capacity before making the decision to take it on or not?
I can answer that, Mr. Chair. So they're more ad hoc when we provide available services for the municipalities, and they take us up on them on an ad-need basis based on our availability of service.
Thank you.
And I just want to say it works really well at that ad hoc basis. There are a lot of times that we don't need anything from the SRD. And so to do a kind of a multi-year provision, we never know what's going to come up. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that it's you pay what you get for, and if there's busy, then you wait. And that's how it is. So it has worked really well for the Village of Isabella so far. So I'm glad that they were brought that forward for renewal. It's important to have strengthened numbers.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
We have one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just echo that for a small community, it's absolutely critical to have support for services that we just don't have capacity for. So it's an excellent way, and I think it's also a way to offset costs as well. So thank you.
Vote on receipt, I think.
So we'll vote on receipt? All in favor?
And
Carried, thank you.
there's a couple options if director wants to move one of them.
I'll make a motion that the regional district work with the Village of Sayward to develop a new municipal service agreement for the board's consideration.
Second.
Second that.
Oh, I didn't have that on. And that's it for that one, so we're moving on.
Yes, so we received the report.
Moving on to parcel tax rule review panel appointments for 2025. Move on receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you, Marnie. Thank
And
you.
Mr. Chair, Tom
Coburn?
can speak to this for us.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is an annual affair that the board has to appoint members to the parcel tax rule review panel. We don't know at this point whether, in fact, there will be changes that will necessitate the panel meeting in the new year, but if they do, it'll be fairly early in the new year, and we felt it couldn't wait until January for these appointments to be made by the board when other appointments are being considered. And so that's why it's in front of you today, and if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions? All in favor? All in favor, motion is carried, thank you.
I'll make a motion that the same directors as previous, that's Lott, and if I can motion myself, Mooney and Sinnott be appointed to the review panel for 2025.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Director Coburn, thank you. All in favor? Abstentions of any? Motion's carried, thank you.
I'll move that if required, the first sitting of the parcel tax roll review panel be scheduled for 8:45 a.m. on Wednesday, February 5th, 2025 at the Regional District Corporate Office.
Second.
Thank you, Director Ivanovich. Moved and seconded. Discussion, all in favor? All in favor, motion is carried.
So let's receive the report.
I'm moving on to 3, Sayward Fish and Game Association funding agreement.
Move receipt of the CEO report.
Second.
Thank you, Wally. Thank you, Director Ivanovich.
Mr. Chair, nothing to add from staff.
All in favor? All in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried.
I'll move that the chair I'll move that the chair and corporate officer be authorized to execute the modification agreement attached to the November 29, 2024 report from the CAO for funding the Sayward Fish and Game Association's hatchery improvements.
Moved by Director Wally,
Second.
Second.
seconded by Director Coburn. Thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Motion to receive the report.
Motion for the grant application policy, that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr.
Moved
Chair.
and second. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the board, about a month ago or so, requested a draft grant application policy. We have put something together based on what we understood from the discussion, and happy to answer any questions that folks may have on the draft policy. Ask if any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Director Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed that the report says that that we are going to be advised in writing at least annually of grant applications under $25,000. I just, if the CA could speak to how often we apply for grants like that, and if they are often received, or if we mostly are applying for items that are larger than that.
The volume of them, hard to say, but if I can speak to what the board's direction at that time was, that grants under $25,000 often will have a timely manner to them, and the board felt it was within the CEO's discretion to just make those applications. There's not a whole ton under 25 planning grant applications, so are under that figure, so that might have been the impetus of having that come forward. But the volume of them, there's not. I don't think there's a ton of them that come under $25,000 or $50,000. Majority are over, I would say.
And if I may add one further comment, it would just be that I noticed that this is labeled as corporate policy number 035. And I just wanted to reiterate that I think it's really important that all the directors have access to the corporate policies. And I understand that corporate staff are working on getting the bylaws on the public website. I noticed that there are 130 of them uploaded there now, and probably a few hundred to go. But just noticing that this one's number 035, I wonder if there may be not as many policies, and maybe it would be possible to provide access to the corporate policies to the directors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the bylaws have been considered a priority in terms of getting them on the website. I think there's actually 132 as of this morning, but every day we do more work on them. With the policies, the board has directed that staff bring back a report, which I anticipate will be available for next month's meeting, talking about how to best familiarize directors with existing policy and having a regular system of reviewing policies. So that report will be presented hopefully next month's meeting, and at which time the board might wish to do something different than simply post them on the director's portal. So in the meantime, we do what we can, of course, to have all of those available for the directors.
Director Sinnott.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just know there was a typo, and I assume that's going to be corrected by staff without any motion here. Thank you.
Tell us what the typo is.
Bottom of the policy page, there's a K in regional, which I don't think is spelled that way.
It's a Czechoslovakian spelling, but yeah.
Director Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to put in a thank you to staff for the effort that they have put into this. I know it's a big job, and I just wanted you to know that I appreciate the effort.
All in favor? Motion, all in favor, motion's carried. Thank you.
And there's a recommendation that
I'll move
follows.
that policy CP 035 grant application process be approved.
Second.
Thank you, Director Coburn. Director Bonnet. All in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried.
Next is number 5, motion to receive.
Motion to receive recording and board committee meetings.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll speak to this. So pre-COVID, if you will, pre-COVID feels like kind of some pre-video terms as well. So we had a understanding, if you will, that we would record the board meetings via an iPad and just for the purposes of accurate minute keeping. Obviously, technology is advanced. We're, live streaming meetings. And I bring this report forward. There's been a number of requests. We do all kinds of community meetings, committee meetings, asking if we can provide recordings of that. And I thought it was fair that we bring it to the board for full disclosure, that if the board wishes, we would create a policy that is transparent about what we are going to create, record, and provide to the public. So the report has a recommendation in here, if that is the board's will, to go beyond our committee and board meetings, making recordings available, then we'll bring back a staff report outlining what that policy would look like and availability.
Director Colburn?
If the board moves that a further report and a policy be provided to the board, would things like an acknowledgement that we're recording the capacity to store and where we would store those for safety, and would all those things be included in that?
If I can, Mr. Chair, I think that's fair because, part of it, we want to be transparent when people are participating in whatever kind of meeting, that this is being recorded and it can be made available to folks. So it's really, kind of a disclosure to whatever meetings we hold, whether APC meetings or whatever we have, that we create a policy that, and maybe the board doesn't support all of them, I don't know, but yes, it will provide those kind of details.
And that's so as a follow-up, just that it would address some of those questions and also, our storage capacity and things like that for things that may be sensitive in nature, all of those types of things. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I would make a subsequent motion afterwards that supports recommendation 2 in the report.
Director Davis and then Director Rice.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. My question is, is this all direct recording, or are we talking about any AI-derived interpretations of meetings? And the only reason I say that is I know the Village of Tassus, we have had problems with AI providing its own interpretations of meetings and sometimes getting them wrong, and which has caused problems for us. So that's the only reason I'm flagging that.
Yeah, it certainly isn't the intention. I mean, I think the requests have come simply as a direction that recordings be made available. So I don't know at times and places how we're going to do that, but it isn't the intention to make them interpretive. Like, it's just to simply record them and make those recordings available in some fashion, however the recording's been made.
Okay, thanks.
Director Rice.
Thank you, Chair. The one question that I had is around retention. If you're going to create a policy for recordings, what will be the retention policy of these?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that will be for the board to decide because, pre-recording like we've got here, we did it on an iPad, and the understanding was that recording was destroyed after we made the minutes. We were just doing it to record accurate minutes. So that will be part of the policy of how long the board wants us to keep this stuff for.
Follow-up question, thank you. I think that how long we want to keep a recording is already predetermined by the existing, we already have a lot of legislation in place that compels us to keep things for how many years?
Yeah, no, exactly. So the offerings that we'll bring forward will examine our legal and legislative requirements as well. This is just going beyond what and again, for transparency, if people know they're going to be recorded, maybe they say things in a different manner or tone or whatever they want. And I think it's fair that whether we're at an APC or, we're at a board meeting, that it's understood that it's recording and this is how it's going to be made available. Because we don't have that, right? And we just want to put that out. And these recordings likely, or the policy could extend to recordings of members of the public, and I think it's fair for they might have a different understanding than yourself about stuff, so.
Director Winnie?
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate the other perspectives that have been offered because that's interesting. I hadn't considered that AI could be interfering in recordings. That's really interesting. I did have a couple of questions. One of them is that I'm hoping that the report would include, and the CAO may be able to speak to this, any like technological limitations or the costs involved in overcoming the barriers or the cost involved in storage of these files. And so I'm hoping that because I know that some of the meetings are outside of this boardroom where things become more challenging if they're being held remotely. And then I'm curious if this is going to be considering public hearings as part of this process, because are those considered a meeting of the board?
I think the intention will be we'll review everything that we engage the public in a meeting and offer those up to the board. And the board can choose all of them, none of them, some of them, but I think we'll put everything on the table that we participate in that might, that folks might want to hear recordings of. Yeah, I would consider public hearings will be on the list. Whether the board supports it, I don't know, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I would be interested in the report identifying best practices from other regional districts. So I'm not sure if it's possible to add that to the motion, or if that would be important to include in the motion, if that's something.
No, it's fine. It's just, we're going to come up with a policy. It may not pass on the first round, but certainly your feedback is being recorded and we'll include that stuff as well. If the wheel's been invented, we try not to reinvent it anyways. So the first thing we do is go see what everybody else has got and then start working from there.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Director Vonnet?
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to point out a piece of tech called OWL. That's it's really great for smaller meetings. It's a device you stick in the center of the table, and it automatically detects who's reading or who's speaking and moves the camera that way. It's just a great piece of tech that I've seen used in other places.
Thank you for that. With that, we'll move receipt to question on receipt. All in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
And I'll make the subsequent, that a further report and draft policy dealing with video and audio recordings of the RD public meetings be prepared for the board's consideration.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on there? No discussion. Call question on receipt. All in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to 6, audit service plan.
Move that.
Receipt of the report from the CAO.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mike will quickly speak to this.
Yeah, it's mostly a business as usual audit service plan. So they do small updates to the materiality and any of the new regulations. So nothing too much to highlight. We have new revenue recognition, but all should be well. The only thing is we did speed it up a little bit a month given the reduced frequency of board meetings, just so we can make it in by the deadline to do the filing.
Director Chapman.
Sir, are we just on receipt right now?
Yes.
All in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
B is the motion. And Mike's going to
What's that?
B is the motion to approve.
Okay, moving on to B.
Chair, I move that the 2024 audit service plan be approved.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All in favor, motion's carried, thank you. Moving on, 7, financial plan for 2025, 2029. Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I believe Mike has a short presentation for us on regional shared services, regional services.
Yeah, thanks. So just about the process, we've come together and put together a preliminary draft budget. I just want to emphasize that the entire document is just a draft. We attached the entire document to the regional meeting and the electoral area service as well as the garden committee. So everybody has the whole thing, but this presentation now just focuses on what we consider the regional services agreement that's pretty much shared by all the participants at the table to some degree or another. So the document comes together by, we take the current 2024 budget, we take all the amendments in it. We incorporate the surplus that we talked about last meeting, plus all the contractual obligations, some inflationary adjustments, as well as consider some project carry forwards. We also look at any of the capital renewals and potential funding methods, and we kind of put that in the grinder, so to speak, and we come up with a plausible 2025 base budget. Our goal of this meeting is really just to gather everyone's initial feedback. So we'll be providing an actual draft budget to you in January. But if we can if we can better align that to meet your vision, we're more than happy to do that to save us up. The one thing I want to point out is that we'll be talking a lot about tax rates and cost per homes in this document. Everything you see is based on the 2024 assessment values. We haven't incorporated the 2025 stuff, which is available in January. So everything in there as far as tax rates and cost per home is technically inaccurate, but the benefit of using the 2024 numbers is it actually gives you a direct comparison of all the spending impacts using the same tax base, essentially. So it's a really good measure for that regard. And again, when you see the draft budget come in January, everything will be updated to reflect the actual assessments, which is going to include all the non-market change and any of the assessment shift. One other thing I'll point out is that the deadline for the regional district to file its budget bylaw is March 31st of any year. So that's what we'll be shooting to get done by. So one of the first things that we talk about is the CPI assumption, and that we use to kind of bake in, and this is a chart of the last 2 years. So we think we're going to start the year somewhere around 2.5%. We'll see where it goes. If you take our entire 2024 financial plan, it was $136 million. There's only about 3% of that that's actually formally tied to CPI. So this is just kind of an indicator of where things are at. A lot of the stuff as far as like construction, steel, cement, chlorine, all that type of stuff seems to increase at a faster rate than CPI. And although you see the chart going down, that's not falling prices. That's just a slower rate of increase of prices than we've seen in the past. So just wanted to point that out. So there'll be a lot more details in the actual attachment, but we'll just be covering the main kind of driving factors behind the change of each one of the regional services. And so that's on the slide here, and then the next slide will comment more on the costs. So no change in the first couple of service. When you get to regional feasibility studies, we have a couple ongoing studies, so we're just replenishing the coffer, so to speak. Regional broadband, not much to say there. It's just some CPI increases. Sayward Fire is going to be the big one. So that's not a new service, but this is the first year we're classifying it as a regional service because we're changing the funding formula. This only affects Area A and the village of Sayward, but you're going to see a big impact on the next slide when we talk about cost per home. overall, the costs are down. It's just how we're showing it on the SRD side. You're going to see a big impact. As far as municipal administration, there's not much to talk about there, but we do have a deadline for all the directors to file their claims, which is January 15th of the year. So get your claims in now. Once we get those estimates, we tend to adjust our surplus estimates, which kind of drives down the applicable, or tends to drive down the applicable change every year. So we just have some small CPI adjustments in there. Strathcona Emergency Program, there's just generally higher activity. So that's leading to the 2025 increase there. 911 is the biggest increase this year. And so that there's a big contract increase, and it was just announced the other day that the province is putting the entire contract under an independent review. So I'm not exactly sure what the details of there. I doubt it'll take place for 2025, but they've forecasted an overall 8% increase for 2025 plus additional 5% for the next 4 years. So again, when I say our budget's not tied to CPI, this is kind of what I'm referring to, and it's a big impact for us because our 2024 budget estimate was also low. We do the estimate and then we kind of get the approved budget. So overall, this translates to about a 15% impact to the to the requisition. So that'll be the biggest deterrent or the biggest impact. And for general administration, we're not anticipating any change this year. So mostly that has to do with the regional fire service, which we increased for last year, and now we're just rolling that service out. So we haven't seen all the costs hit this year. So there's a bit of a surplus, and then we had some staffing vacancies that are keeping the requisition stable. So as far as costs per home, this is a pretty good idea, especially for the municipal participants, except for Campbell River. They'll also have the gardens impact. But this is approximately the cost increase per home. The electoral areas, of course, will have the EA shared services and their individual services, which we'll cover tomorrow, also impacting this. As you can see, the major increase is the Village of Sayward and Area A. But for the village, the overall cost for the services is going down. It's just we've never shown the requisition for the Village of Sayward before. So that's just for this year, you see the big increase there. And the Village of Sayward also includes the garbage collection that's also shared with Area A. So they're slightly different than the others. So any questions about the regional sharing before we get into the business cases?
Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment on the 911. You are correct. It is what we've seen with the preliminary budget would be an 8%, and then they're looking at 5 and 5 after that. Unfortunately, they're not prepared to release the budget until June 24th, so we won't actually see that final number, but 8% is what comes to mind. Thank you.
Director Woolley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this an opportunity to make the odd motion to amend the budget or not?
It's not the intention, again, because they're all just projected to year end. When traditionally what we've done is we've brought things forward, like this is a base budget. So anything that you see in here that you've seen to date does not provide an increase to anything. So what we have done in the past is brought things that would bring an increase and see if the board supported that. Then it goes into the year-end assessments, invoicing and all that, and you'll see a true number reflected in that.
There is one increase in here that I was going to speak to, and I was going to make a motion to it after receipt. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, or do you want to wait for the next iteration of the budget?
Well, I don't know what it is, so.
Well, you'll find out when I talk about it.
Okay, well, I can't comment if I don't know what it is,
Okay,
so.
we're on receipt, but anyway, I'll tell you what my issues are. I have three, Mr. Chair, if I might speak to. One is the Function 201 Regional Fire Administration at $345,928, just about $346,000. Now, this was two fire chief positions that we set up in Campbell River to benefit 30%. I think it was to benefit all the other jurisdictions. So my question was, could we have a report from time to time, I don't know, say every 6 months or something, that would kind of lay out what those folks are actually doing and what benefit we're actually getting from this fund? It's an expensive operation.
Yeah, I think that was the understanding at when the I'm going to call it service, but it's in general admin, so it's not a standalone service, was created. I mean, what we did in 2025 is created an agreement with Camp River that took some time, and then they have done postings for it. They need equipment, so on and so forth. So they've just gotten the position, the one position hired. Yeah, I think it was in the last month. So it's, and then again, we're going to carry a little surplus forward because of we didn't spend all that money. But absolutely, there'll be some interval of reports can be prepared for what that's providing. So the board did support a 5-year contract with Camp River that we executed.
Oh, thank you. And then my second thing I would like a little discussion on is the regional grant and aid that's inside our general administration service. In 2022, we budgeted $50,000 for that grant and aid, and that's been continual through 2024. I understand that in 2024, we spent $43,000 of that, so we'd have a $7,000 left over. Now, in 2025, I noticed that in this draft budget, that's increased to $75,000. And I anticipate that that's because the city of Campbell River intends to take some of their city's grants and aids, and to reduce their own budget, they're going to encourage those people to bring them over to the regional district and make them regional district grants and aids. I'm a little bit.
If I could just interject with that, there has been no direction from Camp River to that. I believe what Mike did, and that it can be amended in the January when the numbers are put into there. I think what he did was replenish a portion of the money that was taken out. So similar to EA grants and aid, when we get to it, I mean, you have the advantage of having EA one-on-ones tomorrow, and you can tell us, hey, you want the grant and aid number at this. So that's just really a plug number right now, and we get the draft budget, the first iteration to you in late January. If the high water mark has been 50,000 and he has it at 75, it can certainly amend that. There's no problem. But there's been no direction from Camp River. Mike has only done that. I'm speaking for him. He can speak for himself to replenish, I believe, a portion that was taken out. So
yes, I understand that.
There's been no direction to.
No, I understand that. My comments on that come directly from the city of Campbell River's own reports from their staff. So that's their intent. That's what they state as their intent. Maybe they haven't informed the regional district of it, but they've generally informed the public of it. So I'll leave motions on that until the next iteration of it. My last comment, Mr. Chair, is on 150 feasibility studies. I see the regional recreation feasibility study report that we completed was $51,000. We've undertaken a further recreation report, which I don't know what the cost of that would be, but I'm sure it may be similar. So just as an estimate, let's say we're spending $100,000 on these reports. And what I was thinking was, so frequently we, as a board, come to staff and say, I move that we have a report on this and that and the other thing. Perhaps we don't really understand that when we hire a consultant, this is expensive stuff. So what I would like to suggest is maybe in the future we could get an estimate of what the cost of these reports would be when they're going to be over 50,000 or so. Because they can certainly add up, and over the period of a year, this board asks for an awful lot of reports.
So if I can just make comment on that, we keep that balance, I would say regionally, pretty low. It's at 50,000. You're not going to get much for 50,000 these days from a consultant. So we can give you, when we're going to do something, we definitely advise the board on, what that cost, that report would be. But we keep the, high water mark on that pretty low. So $50,000, there's not going to be many things that are done for much less than that. But, again, when the board gives us direction on, look, we want a feasibility study on this, we know the budget only has 50,000, let's say, in it. So if it's going to be more than 50,000, we're going to say, okay, we need, we're going to overrun this budget. And if it's under 50,000, the assumption is that the budget's approved and we'd use that fund.
Yeah, I understand. Where I'm coming from on this is, everybody knows that a feasibility study, when a service is created, that cost is dumped into that service. So when you're going to vote on something, it's nice to know how much you're committing in the first place, especially if it's a service that's going to affect your particular jurisdiction. In the end, and if you create the service, that amount's going to you. So that was just my comment on that. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
And appreciate that. I think all of those, you'll have clear line of sight in late January. And again, similar we were talking about this morning on the EAs and some of the things, we're just kind of plugging numbers in there so you can see, and then you can easily change them. If a benchmark number for regional feasibility or something else that you want it reduced, but we try and stick with traditional historical amounts that we've had in there.
Sorry, I could add to the grants and aid. So 2023 was the high water mark for the regional grants and aid. That was the 74,419 was spent. That's where the $75,000 budget comes from.
Director Senate?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just going back to the beginning of the regional report where we have at page 4 sort of the City of Camp River average requisition by the various services that we share in. But I don't have the total number of homes, and I don't have the total amount that's actually being charged to the City of Camp River, nor for the other municipalities or the other regions, basically. Is there a way that we can get that information just to make it more understandable? I mean, in some cases, the city benefits quite extensively, like with Strathcona Gardens being located in the City of Camp River. But for other services, there's less benefit personally to the city, but we're willing to participate on a regional basis. I just want to be able to balance those sort of various costs across the different things by understanding the total requisition that's coming out of the city.
I was going to say, each one of the function pages has a tax requisition table in there, and then that shows you the average cost per service. So you look at the charts in the beginning to get the total per area, and then we have it for the individual service as well, if you wanted to see what everybody's paying. So I'm not sure if we could bring it up, but if you go to page 10 of the document, for example, is the municipality administration, and then that would show you the average requisition per folio.
Yeah, it's broken down, but there isn't sort of an overall summary that gives me the total numbers. And it's just for my ability to be transparent and clear and understanding, unless I'm missing a page that I haven't seen. I mean, I can see this, what you're saying, municipality administration, the tax requisition is, what, 432,000?
Yeah, so if you look at the top line,
Right.
City of Campbell River will pay 370,000 of that, or the residential portion pays 370,000, and then the average City Campbell River would pay $25.38. Village of Sayward would be $10.88. Tassus $5.69, and so forth.
Right, so for the residential portion, I'd still have to do a calculation to figure out of that 370, say Campbell River's paying 300,000. Just a guess.
Yeah.
I don't know that. So in terms of drilling down, I don't know whether the reports can provide a supplemental that lets us have that, or if there can be just the number of homes, because I can do the math. Or the number of businesses and industries and utilities, because it's not really clear. We have an average residential, which we have largely residential homes, I know, that are the tax base, but there's still other things that shifted. I mean, it was quite curious when I saw a huge amount for Area D industrial on one of the things. It was like $4,000. I was like, what's out there?
That's is one big industrial user.
But maybe what we can do, because we provide two documents in the budget. One is more an iterative document that tries to make things a little simpler, because technically speaking, local governments are just required to provide like a GL account, and it's just thousands and thousands of line items and numbers. So if there's something in there that you see, as you're mentioning now, I think Mike can touch base with you and try and insert some more, a graph or summary of things in there, because that's what our intention is to do in the document that you have inserted in here, is to make it far more interpretive than the other budget document, because the other one is just, again, thousands of lines of GL account numbers. So if that helps, certainly Mike can take your feedback on what might help you dissect something and look to integrate it in this budget document.
Well, thank you. Maybe Director Lanning and I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, and with that, we're still on receipt, so Director Wally.
Yeah, just one comment that just occurred to me. Because the regional grant and aid, we don't have a service for it, and it's paid out of general administration, we just have a budget. Could we have a line item in the next iteration of the budget that just lines out the grant and aid?
Well, I'm okay, Mike, you can go ahead.
I say, yeah, we can do whatever you like.
Thank you. That's the answer we want to hear.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate what Director Sanders was saying. Number of folios for all the different municipalities and electoral areas. I know it gets complicated because there's residential, there's industrial, et cetera, but I think number of folios would give us a good number to just play around with and understand. And also for me, when I'm considering new services and stuff, knowing how many folios I have and how much it's going to cost, it'd be great to have. Thanks.
Yeah, there is a complete folio count and everything. It just doesn't do the math for you. So, but like I say, if I get some specifics, I think I got a pretty good idea. So I could probably try and come up with some supplementary tables.
Thank you. With that, we're on receipt, so all in favor? All in favor, motion's carried, thank you.
And the business cases, so the report to be received.
Move that the report from Chief Administrative Officer be received, the 2025-2029.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, so what we've done, again, traditionally, is that we provide the base of a budget and what those impacts will be if, nothing changes, and then bring items forward for the board's consideration and show them if they were considering these items, this would be the anticipated impact. If the board supports those things, then again, in the January iteration of the budget, because we'll have year-end numbers, housing count, so on and so forth, we can embed those in there, and then you can see what the actual cost of this, and you have the opportunity to debate whether you want it to stay or go. So we don't have many. We only have two for the board, and I guess I'll start. Is this the first one? Okay, regional housing. So, okay, I'll take this. So the board has started, we started a regional housing service a year and a half ago, and that's great. We have borrowing authority within that. There's been lots of discussions, direction from the board to follow up on a couple different groups with some discussions on housing opportunities. I can't disclose who, but I can promise you in January, there will be a proposal coming forward on a housing service, on a housing opportunity, I should say. And if the board is going to move forward on anything at some point in time, you're going to need some finance, at least interim financing. If we even anticipate that a project is going to be cost neutral, there's still going to be some cost to get the financing, get the project up and built, and then presumably it would transition itself into supporting. But without interim initial finance for a project, any project, nothing is going to go forward. So what I've presented to you, and I'm making some assumptions here, so it's just because if you can requisition money or not, you can borrow money or not, but the ability to do something requires that we have some funds in hand. So I've just made an assumption here. I said the housing service has the authority to borrow $10 million. I just kind of cut that in half and said, let's say the board has a housing project and it required $5 million in interim borrowing. The number you see here is the debt repayment on that. So the proposal you have in front of you is a requisition number of 301. You can see the impacts that it would have to each home in each area. And I strung that over, if you looked at the business case, over 2 years, just in case a project straddled a financial year. There's some funding available for that. And then you can see I zeroed it out with the assumption that a housing project, the intent of it would for it to stand on its own 2 feet. But to get on those 2 feet, if we're gonna do something, anything, we're gonna need some funding for interim financing, certainly. So this is before you with a resolution, and again, that anticipates a $5 million borrowing and debt repayment over those terms. Happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Director Woolley?
Okay, so let me just see if I've got this right. We're going to say borrow $5 million, we're going to build some housing, people are going to move in, and with the money we collect from that, it's going to pay off the loan and the interest and so on. That's good. The thing that...
Quickly, yes on that, so we're good.
Yeah, that sounds good. The thing that doesn't sound good is the other side of the coin. The $600,000 that we're going to requisition from our taxpayers over 2 years, are they going to be refunded?
Well, the presumption is, again, that the income that we received from a housing would pay back the mortgage and the debt on it.
I understand that, but what about the requisition?
So it depends on what the opportunity is. Sorry, who took that off the board there? The impact is pretty minimal per home. You can see on, let's say, pick you, Sayward. So it's $5. So again, I'm not making any presumption on whatever the project is, but the board looks at a housing project and says, I'm going to say worst case, okay, scenario, that it's going to be independently supported, and maybe worst case scenario, the financing of it would have to be absorbed. So you come up with a regional project that has a regional benefit, and the contribution from a Sayward home is $5. That I would acknowledge that could be potentially, I don't know the project and I don't know the business behind it, but it could be a worst case that each home in Sayward would have contributed $5. But certainly with the attention that the housing project stand on its own. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're still on receipt. Any more questions? Director Mooney?
Thank you, Chair. I was looking to the CAO for their thoughts on this business case summary for the housing, and just wanting, I guess, some assurance that the funding that we would be requisitioning, if the board chooses to do that, would be used for housing and not to hire somebody to
It
think
can't
about
be used
housing.
for anything other than housing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can't be used for like an employee that thinks about housing.
No, I mean, the intent is to support a housing development of some sort, yeah.
Thank you.
So there's silence here, but again, I just knowing that there's things that are going to be presented for you. If the board supports that, there's a motion. If the motion isn't supported, there's nothing in the budget, and any proposal I bring forward will have no funds available to do anything. So I've provided a proposal that would, or a resolution that would supporting a proposal should it come forward.
Can I ask one more
Director
question?
Vonage?
Oh, Director Vonage.
Thank you, Chair. I know Cortez definitely has a housing project that we're interested in bringing forward, and I'm just curious for the board and CAO, when we talk about regional housing projects that are a benefit to the the region. If we're doing a housing project in Zabala, does that consider benefit to the region? Are we considering building housing in any of our municipalities or electoral areas that benefit to the region, or are there specific ones that are only benefit?
Well, you know as much as I do. So it's a regional housing service with a broad scope of regional housing, so it can be anything, anywhere. So I just know I have one in the queue that, in terms of workforce housing, that we're very close to being able to present an opportunity to the board. And knowing that that's in the queue, it will be dead in the water if we don't have some money to help finance the build of it. So.
And the one that we have in the queue from Cortez, the
last motion, I think, is for myself to discuss some opportunities with the Cortez housing. So I don't know if they may have one in the queue, but we haven't shared that yet. So I don't know what that one is. But yeah, if there's some opportunity for that, there's got to be some funding to get something off the ground or.
Right. Okay. So what we're looking at here, the business case, isn't just for the one that you have in the queue.
I just threw a number out there. Like if the board wanted to do the requisition for the whole, I think it's 10 million, isn't it? Is it 8 or 10? 10. Do the whole thing. I'm just kind of ballparking something that I think is reasonable.
Thank you.
So we got Director Mooney, and then we'll move receipt.
Thank you, Chair. The question is, you're saying that there's something coming to the board in January, so is it possible that we would be able to look at that item in January and then consider this motion to include something in the financial plan?
You could, but I would suggest if you support it, because you're not committed to it in January. If you're supporting of it, you want to have a lens in January that says all in assessments, house counts, adjustments, so on and so forth, new and shiny space. This is what it looks like. So you have an opportunity to say yes or no. So again, it's not committing you to anything, but inserting it in there and having a look at what it is. Again, we can tell you, as you can see here, based on all the other information you've got from your individual and shared services, that for a 2-year period, you would contribute in Area C $11 a home to this. So my humble suggestion is, because we have talked about housing and opportunities, and I know I have one in the queue, to put it in there. If you don't like the opportunity that comes before you, you can still remove it from the budget if you like, because the budget won't be adopted for, at least a month afterwards that.
Thank you, everyone. We're still on receipt, so all in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Business case number 1.
So either somebody makes a motion or they don't.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is only the housing one. There was some other ones that were ahead of it, but I have a motion that the 2025-2029 financial plan include a budget allocation of $301,211 in the 2025 and 2026 to be funded through Function 451 Regional Housing Service.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Opposed? Sorry.
Sorry, Director Wally caught me off guard there with a positive vote. He takes no offense to that either. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have one more for the board's consideration. And Renee will present that.
Good afternoon, Chair and Directors. The business case before you supports the board's priority of building First Nations relationships and exploring opportunities for shared interests. Earlier this year, the board approved the development of a reconciliation framework as an action plan that aligns with the strategic plan, the TRC calls to action, UNDRIP and DRIPA. Phase 1 of the framework is currently underway. We're assessing the organizational readiness, determining interest from First Nations in co-developing the framework, and outlining a collaborative process to do that co-development. As engagement with First Nations increases, opportunities to partner and participate in reconciliation activities increases. The 2023-2024 budgets included an annual total of $35,000 to implement these initiatives and projects. And just to give you an example, cultural safety training for the board and staff can easily eat up half of that budget. To advance the reconciliation efforts and to complete and implement phase 2 and 3 of the framework requires additional funding. Staff do not have the capacity to complete this project without outside support and expertise. The co-development will require multiple community-to-community meetings, in-person and remote planning sessions, and potentially the creation of service agreements and memorandums of understanding. In addition to the proposed increased budget allocation, staff will be applying for funding through UBCM and other provincial and federal grant opportunities, as well as maximizing partnerships and in-kind contributions. Further investment for the reconciliation framework is required to make progress in fulfilling the commitments of the TRC calls to action, UNDRIP, DRIPA, and the SRD strategic plan. This work will build stronger relationships, support equity, and position us to advance reconciliation in a meaningful way.
Thank you. I have Director Coburn.
I think that the work that we do, that we have done so far on this has been thoughtful and strategic and as inclusive as we can possibly be. And so I'll make the recommendation afterwards to include this. I think if we're going to, there's been a lot of talk around this table about doing these things that we should have been doing all along, the UNDRIP, getting ourselves in shape for this and doing it in the right way. And I understand that that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money to get stakeholder true opinions, true stakeholder commitment, but I think that will pay off in dividends. We have really good relationships as far as I'm concerned, and the partnership capacity in this is massive for going forward in projects, for furthering things that benefit everyone in the region inclusively. And so, yeah, I'll make this motion. I think that as part of doing it right, we need to invest. And I think that that will come back to us in spades.
I'm just, I noticed it's talking about aligning SRD policies with UNDRIP and DRIPA. Do we have any concrete examples of policies that we would be looking to modify and just some indication of what that would look like?
There potentially could be some HR policies that need modification, and basically be looking at our policies and amending them using a decolonizing lens. Like, taking out some language that maybe is old and outdated, and just ensuring equity in some of our HR policies.
Sorry, what would be an example of an HR policy that would be colonistic?
Well, I think it kind of also aligns with an accessibility lens. So, if we're looking at diversity and inclusion, and bolstering that in terms of HR, that could be a potential policy. Or another one might be, we're doing a capital project, going away from the HR policy, but there could be, areas where we would want guardians on site when we do a particular project, and, including some of those topics in our policies as we move through projects.
Any more questions? We're still on receipt for this one.
Do we have a motion on the floor? I didn't think we had a motion on the floor. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Robin took the question. Thank you, Chair. I understand the need for, or the interest in both of these business cases that are being presented here. And I guess my question is to the CAO, and that's that there's an affordability pressure which is being felt by a lot of our constituents. And I'm curious if there's been any consideration for other areas of the financial plan which could perhaps have a little trimming to take place so that we could provide capacity for these business cases without the full financial effects needing to be felt.
Well, what we have and what we presented over the last several months is a base budget. So the only things you've seen presented before you are things that are go beyond what the base budget. So if you say trimming, you're talking about a service reduction, and the board could introduce that, but nothing you see reduces service. The only things that can are opportunities at the one-on-ones. If we go through them, let's say, for example, I'm just making this up, you have a significant contribution to reserves in a service function in your area. And we could suggest that, say, that you could easily reduce that by X amount of dollars, and that would offset the cost of this, for example. So it's more available, I would say, within the EAs than the overall regional budget. But you have the ability to do that within your own services. But regionally, then I would have to get instruction from the board to reduce services. Because all you see here is a base budget. And the only things we present to you for your blessing are things that go beyond that. So you've seen two things here today. So regionally, then, if there was some quote-unquote trimming to be done, the board would have to give me direction on what regional service to reduce to be able to accommodate this.
So we do have a motion for, okay, question on receipt. All in favor? All in favor, motion's carried, thank you.
And I'll move a recommendation that the 2025 to 2029 financial plan include a budget allocation of $92,000 in 2025 and reduced allocation in $73,500 funded through general admission.
Second.
Administration.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Any opposed? Two opposed? Three? Still carried? Three opposed, motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on, Emergency Preparedness Service.
Move receipt of the report from CO.
Moved and seconded, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Sean will speak to this for us.
Through the chair, the Regional Emergency Services Program bylaw does not reflect the reality of the service our program provides, nor does it align with the Emergency and Disaster Management Act, which received royal assent in November of 2023, in that our current bylaw restricts the regional district to only exist within the space of planning and preparedness, which is only one of 4 phases of the emergency management cycle. So if it is the will of the board to both avoid the legal vulnerabilities of this and ensure that your regional emergency service operates in line with the vision set by our governing regional board, it is staff's recommendation that you pass the motion. Any questions?
Director Coburn.
I have a comment. Not a question necessarily. I appreciate the fact of moving through the quagmire that is the new legislation and trying to provide us with something that fits in with that. So thanks for bringing this forward.
Director Maloney?
Thank you, Chair. It seems like maybe the scope of the work that's becoming the responsibility of the Strathcona Regional District could be expanding threefold, just based on the report, because we're adding 3 additional areas of mitigation, response, and recovery that maybe we haven't been managing so far, adding those to our envelope of responsibilities. So will the report that is being brought back consider the cost increases that this may download to our taxpayers?
Through the chair, yes, of course, but try not to get too, I know how you all feel about provincial downloading and legislation. Please don't get hung up on that. That's just the trigger point for us bringing this forward. We have always been involved in mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. The new act is just our catalyst. Like, this report is probably 5 to 6 years in the making because we've just been waiting for the new act to be passed as the catalyst to bring it to you. We've been working with Zabalis on wildfire recovery since 2018. Emergency Services oversaw the renovations on the Oyster River Dike in 2018, which is mitigation. We've always existed within these 4 pillars.
That's encouraging. Thank you.
Director Sinnott?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Similar to other things where local governments create policies that create sort of a local government immunity, is there something in the legislation that constrains our ability to set budgetary constraints? Are we going to be forced to spend more money than we potentially were expecting because of provincial legislative requirements?
So through the chair to Director Sinnott, currently right now, no, because the only aspect of the new Emergency Management Act that's come into force is the changes to states of local emergency, recovery powers, and the Indigenous engagement requirements, which we're currently, in the path of meeting regionally through pooling funds to hire a position for that. But regulations around risk assessments and emergency management plans are still forthcoming, and based on the detail of what the province expects in those regulations, then cost estimates can come. So the devil's in the details of when the regulations come and what the province expects.
Thank you. All in favor of receipt? No abstentions. Motion's carried. Thank you.
I'll make the motion that a further report be prepared regarding possible updates to the Strathcona Emergency Program bylaw to better align with the 4 phases of emergency management as defined by the Emergency and Disaster Management Act.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Any abstentions? Seeing none. Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on, allowable annual forestry cut.
I'll make a motion to receive the report of the CAO.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is a motion from the Natural Resources Committee, so nothing more to add from staff.
Move receipt then.
Any questions?
Any questions? Director Wally?
Yeah, just a question for staff here. The meeting, is that to involve the board or just that specific committee?
It's unclear, you're right.
I think it should involve the board, at least for those who are interested.
I don't think anyone,
Mr. Chair, we mustn't forget this committee, the Natural Resources Committee, has 3 regional districts involved and members thereof. So I don't like to disagree with the CAO, of course, but it seems to me that the intent probably was to meet with that committee. There's nothing to say they couldn't also meet with each of the boards.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I think the board should be included because there's directors here that aren't on that other committee that would probably be directly affected by this and have a desire to have some input into it. So maybe a little amendment would be in order afterwards.
Director Coburn?
Well, in recognizing that, I also am hesitant to amend a recommendation that's come out of another committee without discussion, so I just don't know how to approve.
We can refer it back if you like, for clarity.
Yeah, I don't know that yeah. I'm not going to make the motion, but I'm.
Director Davis is on it. His mic is on.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I had a question regarding that because I got an email from Director Jack asking if we were interested in getting the group back together because he wasn't present at the last Natural Resources Committee meeting, and I was wondering if that invite was actually extended to other members that aren't part of this.
It was because the members is the 3 regional districts, certainly. He likely wasn't able to make the meeting. The scheduling of the 3 regional district representatives is a nightmare. So he's certainly a member of it. So I don't think, again, considering, as Mr. Yates said, there's 3 regional districts on there, it might be advisable then to refer the motion back to the committee for clarity, because I don't know how, the other 2 regional districts who supported this what they thought the intent was, unless you did, Director Davis, you were there, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just wanted to flag that to make sure that there wasn't an error that occurred there in terms of how that last meeting was organized.
No, it's, again, getting people, that group of people to commit to a certain day is challenging.
Herding cats, yeah. Thanks.
After receipt, I'll make a referral motion.
I just didn't hear Director Davis. Did you recall the meeting intention? Were you at that meeting with the resolution?
Yeah, I was at the meeting, and this is what we brought forward for consideration at the board. But as far as going beyond the board, I'm unclear as to how that should proceed.
Thank you. Director Mahoney?
Thank you, Chair. I am not on the committee, at least not yet. But I did look at the minutes that we received earlier in this meeting, and it was the motion that this is coming from is from a notice of motion on the agenda. And when I looked back to the May 15th, I think it was, previous meeting that the committee had, it seemed like the motion actually came, I don't know, through the CAO from the delegation that was here. So I'm not sure if like the intent of the motion was clear from.
Yeah, you're right.
It seems like there was sort of a tenuous or
The motion
complex
definitely came from
provenance.
the delegation and supported by the committee. And you're right, it was from a meeting several months ago. So I can't say for certainty what the intent of who was to be included on the meeting. Probably the safest thing is to refer it back to the committee.
Okay.
So with that, we'll move on receipt. All in favor? Abstentions of any? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you.
I move, Mr. Chair, that we refer this issue back to the committee for clarity.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Director Senate?
Yeah, I'm just curious why it would come to our regional district if it was a multi-unit committee. Is there some sort of terms of reference that we're the lead?
Yes, we started the Natural Resources Committee, and there was the desire at UBCM last year, the year before, probably the year before, that the chair met with the other regional districts chairs, and they were interested in either forming or participating on a Natural Resources Committee. So we created a terms of reference of the 3 regional district members.
Do we have Do we have a scheduled meeting for the next Natural Resources Committee? I'm just so concerned if it was so difficult to get another meeting that this could be delayed months and months and months, and it's more timely than ever for our local economy, so.
Well, we staff have tried to make more regular meeting times. In fact, we were directed to enhance the terms of reference and membership because there's 3 members from each regional district on there. And if we didn't have the other folks showing up, we didn't even have quorum. So we needed to ensure that we had enough folks we could schedule a meeting to make sure we had quorum on there. So it's interesting that Director Jack was saying, let's get the group together. We've reached out this group a lot. So we're trying to do a schedule of meetings, but we need to get people to commit and or populate it with some certainty that we're going to have a meeting when we call it, and we will have quorum.
Director Wally?
Perhaps a good solution would be that if the committee agrees that this could come to the full board and they could be invited to attend that particular board meeting, and then if they don't show, we still got a quorum.
Sure. Yeah.
Director Mooney?
Just following up on something that the CAO just mentioned, the enhanced terms of reference that the committee has requested. Will that be coming to the board?
Yeah, it was at the last meeting, which was, I think, a couple weeks ago, so that'll
Sure.
come.
Thank you.
There's a motion to refer it back to the Natural Resources Committee.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a solution that's in between, like that gives us the ability to be more agile. I think the intent, from my reading now, is that it's the SRD that's going to reach out, and maybe it's just staff, and then whoever wishes to attend could be invited by staff. My understanding is how these things happen is if you get into the queue and ask for the meeting with the minister, then you can move ahead and potentially invite people who are interested. Instead of trying for perfection here, we try for the good. And then we just leave it at staff and SRD as arranging the meeting.
Yeah, don't disagree. Arranging a meeting's easy, and then we can try and rally the participants if that's the desire. So, we can certainly reach out to the minister and with the topic to try and arrange a meeting, and then certainly invite folks, but it's whether it's the folks in that committee or this board that I think is discussion. So, there's little chance we're going to get the minister to come to our board meeting, but.
Yeah, we might get a representative from the chief forester. And it'd be a big embarrassment if he showed up and then there was not enough participants to hold the meeting. So if they bring it here, I think it would solve this whole thing.
I'm just going to comment. The city of Canberra's been pretty successful when we go to Victoria actually getting minister meetings. So I'm not going to vote in favor of the deferral back to the committee just because of my concerns about the delay, but I would put a second motion to sort of move this thing along and then
Make this happen. Thanks.
Director Mooney?
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious, the motion here is sending letters to 2 ministers and the chief forester to request a meeting. So is the intent to request one meeting with these 3 participants and the Natural Resources Committee members, or is it to request a meeting with each of them individually?
Well, whatever's possible, ideally all of them, but I think it's the intent of who the meeting is to be with and where, like it's obvious who they want the meeting with, but is it a delegation to go down to Victoria, or is this group coming up here? That's unclear. And again, the motion was prepared by the delegation, so I don't even know if the delegation knows it's a 3 regional district group. So,
Yeah, I was just going to respond. I think it's good to cast a wide net. Having said that, we'll probably get the chief forester. I think that'd be a good place to start with. But yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you. Director Colburn?
I have a question on process. Is a referral motion just a referral motion, or can it be a inclusive referral motion, so to add more information to it?
Mr. Chairman, the motion currently before the board is to refer this back to the Natural Resources Committee for clarity. So however the board wishes to amend that to suit its taste, the board's free to do that.
I would make an amendment. That would be to arrange the meeting and then follow on and refer it back for the SRD to arrange a meeting and then refer it back to the committee for clarity on attendance.
I'll second that for discussion. Is that a reasonable alternative from the CAO's perspective?
I think so. I mean, we're trying to get clarity on who the meeting is with, but while we're doing that, we can certainly get on trying to organize the meeting. So I think we're going to vote on the amendment motion right now.
Thank you. So all in favor of the amendment motion?
Sorry, can you read that back, please?
Director Colbert.
Something like to arrange a meeting first, as indicated in the recommendation from the committee, and then worry about the attendees from the other regional districts. Something like that.
Thank you, everyone. We will move on with question. And all in favor? Abstentions, of any? Seeing none, motion's carried. Thank you.
Oppose.
Oh,
Online?
online? One opposed? Thank you.
Vote on the motion as amended. Tom, we need to vote on the motion as amended then? So we'll vote on the motion as amended.
All in favor?
The motion, so the motion as amended would be, let me just find it.
It's to.
That the SRD, that a letter be sent to the Chief Forester and the SRD requests a meeting to discuss their commitment, and that.
And at the same time, we'll refer it back to the.
And refer it back to the committee for attendance.
No, for who the committee intended the meeting to be with.
Director Mooney?
Chair, I just want to be clear on something. So we received the report, and then we received a deferral or referral motion, and now we're receiving an amended referral motion, which is the amended referral motion actually including the second motion on the item on the agenda?
We voted on the amendment to the deferral motion to add, the referral to add the request for the meeting in the front end and to refer it back to the natural resources. So now what we have on the table, and we voted in favor of that. So what we have on the table is the amended motion. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have it right in front of me, to arrange a meeting with these folks and at the same time refer it back for clarity to the Natural Resources Committee on who is intended to be at that meeting.
Okay. And I'd like to move an amendment motion, because I am comfortable with the letter being sent to the ministers and the Chief Forester asking for a meeting, but I think that the theme of the meeting, rather than being around the annual allowable cut, really needs to be around stable and reliable forestry sector employment in our communities. And I think that that is a separate issue or a bigger picture issue than
Because it speaks to a different issue.
the EAC.
I don't think those two issues are related. So that would be a completely separate motion in my mind.
The AAC is not related to employment?
Well, they're not related to the direct motion that we have here. So that's, to me, that's a separate motion.
Okay, I guess for me, the thought was that because this motion was coming from the Truck Loggers Association, that it was maybe not focused on, I mean, for me, on the board, and I think that here we have our strategic priorities, which are really about like local employment and ensuring that we have robust and diverse economic commercial conditions for our communities. That is our board's directive.
I'm not disagreeing, but that is not the scope of this motion. Sure, this motion was crafted by the delegation, but it was supported by the committee. So this is a motion of the committee, and I'm not saying your motion doesn't support our strategic initiatives, but is not, it is too much different than what the motion that's being put in front of us. It's not an amendment to it, it's a new motion.
Okay.
If you, I mean, you're free to make another motion, but.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Opposed?
Any opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, motion's carried. Thank you. One abstention, yeah, we got it.
Now on to bylaws.
Moving on to bylaws. First one up, Momini?
I'll move receipt of the bylaw number 574, Desolation Sound Bulk Water Regulation Report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Director Senate?
Yeah, I just want to hear from staff the reasons necessary. Is there a pending application for people to do bulk water in the Desolation Sound area? Is there an imminent issue?
I think the impetus of this bylaw came from the director, so I think it's probably more appropriate for the director to speak to it.
Yeah, this is, I think, the same bylaw we already passed for Area D and Cortez and Quadra Island. So it's the exact same one.
Well, thank you. I mean, my recollection was there was concerns about water usage and aquifer protection, and I just want to know if this was similar. I don't know if there's an issue in the Desolation Sound area that's similar.
This is, although it says the Desolation Sound Rural Land Use Bylaw, it's funnily enough not in Desolation Sound. It's Reed, Morel, Sonora, Stewart, and the Rendezvous Islands. So I think if you look at the bylaw, it's really about providing an opportunity for community to have a public hearing if there is an application for a commercial water extraction commercial enterprise.
So raising my question again, are we regulating something that's not ever going to happen? I can't imagine there's ever going to be a person that wants to bulk water bottling or any type of extraction in a very remote area without ferry service. So, I mean, one, I don't like the idea of regulating things we don't have to. But second of all, you've already heard my objection about we're intruding into an area outside our jurisdiction if it's about water preservation.
Well, I would suggest that providing an opportunity for the community to have input on a commercial enterprise, which could drastically affect their drinking water, is reasonable. And I think when you look at what happened in Merville, really that is part of really why this was sparked, was concern that if you wait until an application is coming forward, it's too late. And we've had a public hearing and the community was in support of it, and as they have been for Area D, Area B, and the Quadra Island portion of Area C.
Well, thank you. I still object to the issue that this is colorable. Thank you.
Thank you. We're still on receipt. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Abstentions? Benny, seeing none, motion's carried. Thank you.
Might opposed.
Oh, sorry. One opposed online?
If we're calling for opposition, I'm against it as well. So all those who opposed?
All those who opposed? Three.
Got it.
Three opposed, thank you.
I'll move that the report on the public hearing for bylaw number 574 and all related records be received.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed or abstentions? Two. Two opposed, thank you. Motion carried.
I will move that bylaw number 574 be given third reading.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
This is electoral areas only.
Electoral areas only, sorry. Abstentions? Seeing none, motion carried.
I will move that D, that bylaw number 574, being the Desolation Sound Rural Land Use Bylaw 1993, Amendment Number 11, be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Electoral areas, all in favor?
Just a second, is this a rural land use or is this a water one? I just wasn't sure if there's a typo there. It's the same one, is it? Okay, just thank you.
Is that-
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? See none, motion's carried, thank you.
577.
Moving on, bylaw number 577.
I'll move that the Desolation Sound Rural Land Use Bylaw Amendment Bylaw Number 577 report be received from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Abstentions? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried, thank you.
I'll move that the report on the public hearing for bylaw number 577 and all related records be received.
Moved and seconded, thank you. All in favor? Abstentions? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried, thank you.
I will move that bylaw number 577 be given third reading.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Abstentions? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried, thank you.
I will move that bylaw number 577, being the Desolation Sound Rural Land Use Bylaw 1993 Amendment Number 12, be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor? Abstentions? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried, thank you.
581, Director Rice.
Moving on, bylaw number 581, Director Rice.
I'd like to move that the report from the Chief Administration Officer be received.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Abstentions? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Thank you.
I'd like to move recommendation B, that the total number of electorals within the area affected by bylaw number 581 be fairly determined to be 3,383 for purpose of the alternate approval process.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, motion's carried. Thank you.
I'd like to move recommendation C, that the deadline for submissions of the electoral responses in respects of the alternate approval process for bylaw number 581 be established as 12 noon on Wednesday, February 12th, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? See none, all in favor? Abstentions? See none, motion's carried, thank you.
I'd like to move recommendation D, that the electoral response form attached to the November 29, 2024 report from the Chief Administration Officer be approved for use with the alternate approval process for bylaw number 581.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? See none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? See none, motion's carried, thank you.
588, yes, Director Wally.
Moving on, bylaw number 588, Director Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move that the report. I move that the report from the Chief CAO be received for the Seward District Fire Department establishment.
Second that.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion?
Just one comment, Mr. Chair. After a first reading, if that's passed, then I have a subsequent motion to make.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Abstentions? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I move that bylaw number 588, being a bylaw to establish a fire department for the Seward District Fire Protection Area, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Abstentions? Seeing none, motion's carried, thank you.
And my subsequent, Mr. Chair, I move that all references in bylaw number 588 to Seward District Fire Department be changed to Seward Volunteer Fire Department. It's on the screen.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Is that the proper wording, or is it paid on call, or how do you do that?
Oh, I think volunteer's fine, yeah.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Abstentions? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried, thank you.
And I further move that the rules be suspended and bylaw number 588 be given second and third readings.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, motion's carried.
And Mr. Chair, finally, I would move that bylaw number 588, being a Seward District Fire Department establishment bylaw 2024, be reconsidered, finally passed, and adopted.
I think Director Wally meant Seward Volunteer Fire Department.
You meant volunteer fire department.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, my goodness.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? See none, motion's carried. Thank you.
Bylaw 589 is Director Vanesh.
Bylaw number 589, Director Vanesh.
I move that the Cortez Island Fire Protection Amendment report from the CAO be received.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? See none, all in favor? Abstentions? See none, motion's carried. Thank you.
I move that bylaw number 589, being a bylaw to amend the boundaries of the South Cortez Island Protection Service, be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried.
I move that bylaw number 589 be given second reading.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Chapman. Motion is carried. Thank you.
Move that a petition be prepared and distributed to affected property owners to determine if they support the extension initiative, and that a further report be prepared for the board's consideration at the conclusion of the petition process.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, Director Sinet?
Yeah, thank you. With a petition being distributed with the mail strike, how are we doing this?
Yeah, through the chair to the director, we're going to work with the Cortez Island Fire Department, who will also work with the resident to make sure that everyone's envelope ends up in their hands.
So I'm assuming that there is a procedure under a petition that we can do this? I mean, I know that this is Mr. Yates' problem.
Yeah, no, there's a petition process, and generally, if you have a small amount of people in an area, you'll do a petition. If there's 10, 20, or 40, 50 of them, whatever, petition is totally acceptable. So this is a small group in a small area, and you can deliver the petitions to them. And
So personal delivery is what you're telling me?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Just thinking.
Director Chapman?
Thank you, Chair. The only comment I have is that I wouldn't send the volunteer fire department into the new area at the risk of appearing to be pressuring people to sign. I think it should be people in the current area seeking signatures from those who are already in the area. That'd be my suggestion. I wouldn't want the fire department going around asking people if they want to sign a petition, and the people might feel pressured into signing it.
well, I think what we'll end up doing is they'll be delivering them to their door. Like there's no solicitation here intended. So I'm assuming the fire department, the folks in the community are just going to deliver these to people's doors, with no solicitation.
Yeah, maybe just further comment. This extension is a request of this community already. So if it is a bit of a formality to go through this. This is the residents have signed on for this and requested for this. So I'm not expecting this to be like a tight decision or anything with opposition. This is a request from these residents.
So what you're saying is every single resident who's going to be included has already said they're in favor. Is that my understanding of what you're saying?
I believe that part of why this extension happened is because that's what happened, yeah.
I know you believe that, but is it a fact that those people
After the
have
petition
already
process,
said-
we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we will. Let's see what happens here, Doug.
Thank you. We're still on receipt. Any more discussion?
You're on D? Yeah. Petition be prepared, et cetera.
Let's call question on D.
Oh,
Ready for the vote. We're ready for the vote.
okay. All in favor? Abstentions, if any? Seeing none, motion's carried. Thank you.
Correspondence.
Moving on to correspondence.
Receipt of all correspondence.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Last item is termination.
Move termination.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Jack.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Just to remind everybody, there's a Christmas party, so hopefully we'll see you there.